Boris and Soma are on a much-deserved ski trip this week. So hopefully they're getting some fresh snow and enjoying themselves. But if you're here today with me, we're going to dive into the topic of digital wellness. And please ask questions as they come up for you or interact in any way. I'm here watching the comments and I would love to hear from you. So first and foremost, let's talk about what exactly is digital wellness and why does it matter when it comes to our overall health goals. So with this world we live in, apps, phones, technology, it offers us so much ease, access, and tools that we have never before had. But it does come with a cost, specifically to our overall well-being. And while this whole conversation is not about eliminating the use of social media and technology, it is about becoming educated on what impact it's having on our health, so we can become a smarter user and support our health while we use all these tools. So the definition of digital wellness is essentially the relationship we have with our digital devices, phones, computers, iPads, what am I forgetting? Phones. And I know for me, my relationship with my technology is a total, it's back and forth all the time. There are times when I absolutely love it and I am so grateful for it because it allows me to have freedom in my life, flexibility, allows me to live where I do and stay in touch with so many people. I also see the effects it has, specifically on my mental wellness. And so just stay tuned because we're going to go into all sorts of tips for how to better use this technology and support our health after we go into some more of the details of what it's doing to us. So ultimately, if we use these devices, the reality is that they are designed, specifically the programs and apps that we use, are specifically designed to hold our attention, aka they become very addicting. It is really challenging to exist with these tools and to use them and totally avoid addiction. Hello, whoever's popping in. Let me know who you are. Any questions? We're talking about digital wellness. So ultimately, that addiction, sometimes people don't really know it as addiction. It pops up in different ways. Things like not being able to concentrate at work, feeling burnt out, not getting good sleep, and all of these things, even depression, even feeling depressed from not being connected. These are all results of, are all symptoms of technology addiction, basically. So if you experience any of this, definitely keep listening. Check some comments throughout. So please, and like you have any questions, even if you're watching this after the fact. All right. So again, devices actually are creating hormonal changes in our body, right? It's not just mentally, right? It's addictive chemically in our body. And there's a couple things that happen that these different apps and programs do that trigger certain hormonal changes. Things like our dopamine. Our dopamine hormone is actually something that gets released. It's kind of related to discovery, promise of reward. So if for an example of bringing that to life, constantly checking your email to see if there's something new that popped in, even though you checked it 5 minutes ago, that's an example of the dopamine working, right, and changing. And so that's how it kind of becomes addictive. A lot like sugar. A little bit ends up making you want more and more and more. The other hormone that gets totally used during with the creation of these different apps and everything is serotonin. And this is that feel-good hormone. It has a lot to do with social recognition. So examples of that would be things like being recognized online, being tagged in your Slack channel, having a picture liked. All of these things really create chemical reactions in the body, and it's not necessarily to our benefit. In fact, many of the apps and programs that we know and use the most are designed based off a theory that has been criticized to downgrade human, just to downgrade humans. Essentially, it makes us stop realizing our higher desires. So what I mean by that is staying in touch with our bigger goals, living the way we want to day to day. An example I have for myself is that I will wake up in the morning with a clear list of things I need to get done. And by the end of the day, after multitasking, being on social media, and I get free time, I'm like, okay, what was it I wanted to do? I really lose touch with that. I'm curious what you all might be experiencing that's similar to that as well. And this is all one of the reasons why we do the infinite scrolling thing, where we just can't stop. We scroll and we scroll and we scroll. So it really isn't helpful when we're trying to be healthier, when we're trying to elevate ourselves to that next level in our career. It's just kind of taking us to a more animalistic part of the human. So how does this exactly relate beyond that to our health? There are both physical and mental things that are going to happen as a result of using technology all the time. And one of the most obvious ones is that we're so much more likely to be inactive throughout the day. We can do pretty everything on our computer. We can go grocery shopping. We can go to the bank. We can go, we can register for classes, right? All these things that in the past we had to go to different places for, we now can do behind our desk. And most of us, more and more of us, I shouldn't say most, but more and more of us are working behind the computer and working screens. And so we are going to sitting a lot more than people who work those physical jobs. We have to be aware of this because essentially sitting is the new smoking. And that is not just some phrase. This has science and studies behind it. For example, all the sitting we're doing, it is decreasing our metabolism. That's leading to obesity and overeating. It's also associated with risks of some of the most common chronic diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. It also impairs our circulation. We know walking is something that helps us circulate things in our body. If we're sitting all day, it's going to prevent that stuff from all the things moving in our body. And this one's probably a bit more obvious, but joint stiffness, low back pain, sciatica, neck pain, shoulder pain, all of that comes from sitting all day. And so we're going to talk specifically about tips on this very shortly, but there are things we can do to help ourselves out here. The other thing that's really impacted from all of this digital time is sleep. I love sleep, I work in sleep, and there's two main things I want you to know when it comes to technology and sleep. The first is one that many people are already aware of, and it's the blue light. How exactly does blue light impact your sleep? Well, it's essentially acting, again, another hormone, a hormone called melatonin, which regulates our whole sleep-wake cycle, really helps us feel sleepy at night. And when we get exposed to that blue light, too close to bedtime, it tricks our brain into not secreting it. And this both helps us fall asleep and stay asleep. So if we aren't secreting it, both falling asleep, staying asleep, getting good quality sleep are all going to be impacted. But it goes farther than the blue light. Even the content you're consuming on social media or reading on the news or YouTube videos is very activating to the body. So again, if we're doing this before bed, what our body actually needs is to be down regulating. It needs to be calming down and preparing for bed. We are really doing ourselves a disservice because it's going to impact our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep because we are getting more and more activated from these things. And sleep is truly a cornerstone of health. I think most people recognize that sleep is important to health. And the hard part is figuring out how to get better sleep, which we can help you with. But some of the impacts that happen of not getting good enough sleep is we aren't going to learn as well. We are going to be more emotional, more unstable emotional, I should say. And it will increase things like anxiety, and it will make us efficient in those noggins. We need work, right? So sleep is impacted. Our physical bodies are impacted. It can also impact our eyesight, staring at the screen. They say you should look up like every 15 minutes, I believe it is. It also, all this multitasking and constantly being occupied and entertained can keep us from really our ability to truly rest and unplug, which is really important. We need that time for our system to downregulate and relax. For example, again, as it relates to maybe the sleep, but it just works all across the board, is what happens is people do tend to go to scrolling, being online, watching TV to relax. The reality is that's not actually relaxing to our body. It is distracting. And so some people feel like it's relaxing because it shuts their thoughts off or it distracts them from their thoughts. But it's more of a band aid. It's not actually a solution to relaxing the body. So I think that's a really important thing to remember is these tools and using our social medias and our technology to relax is not actually relaxing to our body, it's activating. And so again, that's what we're relying on to relax at times. We're not gonna remember or have tools to help us really unplug. We'll talk about ideas at the end, how to unplug that go beyond this, because I do think many people have gotten to the point where they just don't even know what other options there are. And I get that struggle. A lot is online right now, and it makes it hard to remember that was a long time when we didn't have these things and we could relax. So um, then the other thing is, as a result of this, we're gonna have more stress and anxiety. There's even been studies done, and self-reported depression has increased as a result of this. Again, mental health, a huge part of our overall well-being. And so if we know that these tools that we're using are causing this, we need to be aware and we need to be doing something about it. And ultimately, this all comes to things like losing our long term motivation and getting that digital burnout, which can keep us from doing our jobs, things like that. So, one last thing it does, just to kind of build on that in terms of the work side of things, is it is causing us to have a lack of focus and brain space. It is important for us to have deep work time. Deep work are for those more creative, critical thinking tasks that we need to do. So, goal setting and maybe editing videos, things that really require your full attention, is not something you can be multitasking at the same time, right? You have to be able to do all these other things. You have to be able to stop yourself from doing all things at once. But again, all these digital medias that we have are requiring us to be pulled in a million directions. For example, you may be checking email, you may be working on this task, you may have Slack, you may have phone calls, all happening at once. So how the heck are you going to be productive and complete the tasks you need to do and accomplish your long-term goals? As a result of all this multitasking, which even if you think you are a good multitasker, it's been proven that our brains do not work optimally this way. Okay. So even if you do, you're going to impact your ability to make good decisions. You're going to have more stress and anxiety, and you're going to have a harder time pursuing those long term goals. In fact, they've even done a study, and I thought this was really interesting when I learned it. Hello, who's ever there? We're talking about digital wellness. So the study that I learned about was that they had people turn off their phone but keep it in their room. But our bodies still were triggering the urge basically to check that phone, even though it was off. And that takes a lot of energy from our body to suppress that desire. So it requires actually moving the phone out of your office or out of your room in order to not get that urge. That is quite literally the addictive part of this that we're talking about. So I know we just talked so much about all the ways that the digital tools we use cause health issues. I'm about to go into some tips and tricks. Who's ever there, let me know who you are and if you have any questions as we go into this. And plus, you're here at the best part, which is what can we actually do about our relationship with tech and in a way that actually helps our health. So the first thing, and one that I absolutely love to do, is suggest downloading a break app, meaning take a break app. And they're all over. You can just kind of type one of those in, desk app, onto your computer, into your internet, and you can download it. And I think mine sets off like every 25 minutes. It tells me to get up and stand up for 2 minutes. Yes, it is disruptive sometimes, right? I'm in the middle of a task. I might need to pause it. Hello, Mary. I'm so glad you're here. um, so I actually I use this. Sometimes I listen to it better than other times, but I can guarantee you I stand up a whole lot more as a result of it. When we get into our work, we're way less likely to actually get up and move our bodies. In fact, I don't know if you heard that ding, it just went off. But I'm going to talk, finish this up, and then I'll stand up after. So that is really powerful. You can set alarms on your phone. You can do it in so many different ways, but I highly recommend if you have a desk job, set that break app. It makes a huge difference from your health and actually helps you be more productive. And it may feel weird at first because, like I said, you'll feel like you're in the middle of a task and then you need to stand up. Trust it, give it a good try. It will make a difference. In terms of the deep work part of things, right? If we need to be able to have time to do deep work where we're really focused, one technique is to do something called time blocking. And essentially, that is where you carve out however much time you feel like you need to complete that task into your calendar and you shut everything else off. That is the one thing you do. So you're turning off notifications, you're keeping your phone out of the office, you are out of commission. You can consider yourself in the wilderness and you're going to get that stuff done. As a result, you're going to feel more focused, you're going to feel more productive. It's going to be great. And part of that too is prioritizing your tasks. So you may have a really long list of things to do. In fact, I have a list on my phone and I've totally played around with this. If I go to a day and I have a long list and I just start randomly plucking them off, I sometimes get to the end of the day and I feel like I didn't accomplish anything because I was bouncing from one thing to the other. What I've started to do is look at all the lists. I'll take like the first 15 minutes of my day or maybe the day before and I'll prioritize them. I'll be what are the things I absolutely need to get done, and I start ticking them off by that order because I've already put that thought into it. So that's a really helpful strategy when you want to stay focused as well. Another important thing is to do something called space management. So kind of being aware of your environment and what are the things that you can do to help create a barrier between the distracting elements of technology and how they impact your health. So something like keeping a phone out of your room if or a conference room when you're in a meeting. I know that may be hard, but perhaps you just have one document open to take notes. Keeping the technology out of your bedroom is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your sleep. Create that space for you to really relax and unwind. Truly, it is transformative. I have experimented with this myself as well. I've noticed differences between me even watching TV and scrolling social media. I've experienced the difference between me watching TV and reading before bed. And I noticed differences in my ability to fall asleep and get good quality sleep. So again, you can create spaces for yourself to create barriers and boundaries with your technology. Don't go to bed with your technology. I hate saying don't do things because it's kind of against our thing. We're not really into that, but I did just say that. So I would say do keep it out of your room. All right. Another thing you can do is clean out your apps, go through your phone, get rid of the things you rarely use. Try and simplify things. And specifically, you can move those really addictive apps, distracting apps, perhaps dating apps, Instagram, Facebook, move them way back into the back pages of your home screen, right? Keep it so you have to think a little bit. And maybe every week you move where it is so that you have to think a little bit about what you're about to do because eventually you've probably had that experience. You just swipe and it's there and you didn't even think about the physical action you had to do to get there. Make it harder for yourself. Also, there's timers. You can create boundaries on each app, right? You can say I'm only allowing myself 30 minutes on Instagram each day, and it sets a timer and it tells you, hey, you've reached your limit. You can ignore it. It's going to take a little bit of your intention to stick to that, but it helps kind of interrupt that scroll that you might be caught in. Other things is committing. I love this one. This is huge. Commit to leaving your technology away when you're interacting with others. This includes Apple Watches. I'm not wearing one, but I can imagine I am. And I'm sure we've all had experiences where we are interacting with someone and they check their phone. It feels horrible. It feels like you're very secondary. It feels like you're not actually a priority. It doesn't make you feel like, and you know us, we love being present. That's a huge part of what we preach at Total Life Concept, right? The focus piece. Be focused with the people you're with. That includes personally and professionally. And if you commit to turning off your phone, putting it away, keeping it out of sight, at least while you're interacting, if you can, it's helpful to your relationships and to that feeling of connectivity. The other and kind of final last piece is, and definitely if you have any tips I haven't mentioned, please write them in the comments because I would love to hear other ones that I'm maybe not mentioning. I want to experiment too. Um, is to remove those internal and external triggers. There's a lot of things that can kind of cause us to go towards these tools or these technology things we have. Things like guilt or FOMO. When I speak about guilt, it could be like you feel guilty for taking a break at work. How do you get rid of that internal trigger? How do you say, actually, if I go take a break, I'm going to be more productive and my boss will be happier with me? Instead of being like, I'm going to go take a break, but I should be at my desk 24/7. I promise you, everyone's going to be happier if you take a little break. Same with FOMO, right? How do you get rid of that? How do you remind yourself that actually being online like this doesn't necessarily make you feel more connected? You have to remove some of those internal triggers. That can be harder. That can be something you need to work with a coach or someone with. But also get rid of external triggers, things that kind of sit like the notifications are a great example of that. Can you limit those notifications? For example, I have an Instagram account, but I do not have notifications. I'll check when I want to check. I don't need something reminding me to constantly come back and look. I'm already checking it plenty, right? Um, so check in on those. I even at one point I was on my desktop. I try and keep notifications off. Facebook somehow managed to slide down there, and it kept popping up, and I couldn't believe how distracting it was. So check in with those things. Maybe you just spend the day noticing what is triggering you to check social media, what's triggering you to check your email, what's keeping you from being focused and productive and keeping you multitasking. Be aware of those, and then you can start creating some actions and a plan B to help with that. Some of the things I like to do, like when I said I have that little break bell that tells me to stand up for 2 minutes. There's a couple of things you can do, and I'm not even going to scratch the surface on this today. But some examples are going for a short walk. Just go around one block, and it might be a little more than 2 minutes, but it's really not going to harm your ability to do your job. You can go make some tea, get some more coffee. If you're working from home, maybe you tackle a chore, empty the dishwasher, fold a couple pieces of laundry. Just get yourself away from the phone. Oh, hey, Kat. Kat says, check when you want to check, and phones away during social time are huge. Yes, it is. I love that you're here. um, and you could also pet an animal. If you have a little furry friend, again, working at home, spend some time, look at them in their loving eyes, give them some love, because that also helps release oxytocin. It's another hormone that makes us feel loved and helps us relax. So that's another great one that doesn't take much time. And as always, the more time you spend in nature, the better. Going into nature also helps really calm that sympathetic nervous system down. That's the fight or flight part of your body that makes us stressed out, and or stress is what triggers that. And so when we go to nature, it helps us actually calm that down and return to what's known as the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest. So those are the tips I have for you. Like I said, this is definitely not everything, but I hope that there's something you gained. I would love to know what you took away from this today and if there's anything new you learned. And we'll be here every single Wednesday. Chris and Soma will be back next week, and I can't remember what topic we're talking about, but I will announce it on Tuesday on our social media platforms. And as always, you can ask questions before, during, after, and we will always make sure to answer those for you. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. Again, I'm Lauren. I'm with Total Life Concept, and I hope to see you again in the future. Have a great day.